So welcome to my shop, y'all. I've been doing a whole bunch of work in the last week. Spent almost an entire week just kind of cleaning, organizing, and doing some modifications to my forge, and figured it was a good time to show it all off and give you a little tour. So this is the side of the shop I don't use as much. Over here I've got the windows that are going to go into the openings in the shop walls eventually. I've only got a couple of them put in. So these big grinding wheels, one of those will eventually become my dream grinder. For now, for my grinding needs, I've got a cheap belt sander over here. This is going to be the next step, the in-between. I've got this wet grinder a friend of mine gave me, this with a big, I think it's an 18-inch wheel. Got a spare wheel for it, a motor down there. I've got to build a stand, put that all together. Some post vices, those are eventually going to be mounted in different places in the shop. All of them are going to have some work. These big windows, I'm really a big fan of big windows. I don't use any artificial light most of the time. I work by natural light, and that's not just, it's not just to be weird or non-electric, because I do have electricity, obviously, but it's because I really like the effects of the natural light. And I don't care for overhead light, so there's no skylights. The natural light coming in from the side across surfaces that you're working on, like an anvil, a piece of metal you're forging, or at the vise, the bench, working on something cold, file work. The natural raking light really makes a big difference in showing the surfaces, making sure everything's flat, square, all that stuff. So there's another big window over my anvil. The whole shop here is about 16 by 22 feet. And then I've got another 16 by 16 room over here that is eventually going to be my woodworking shop. Right now it's just a catch-all because I have no other outbuildings. So I'm working on another shed where I'll be able to clean all that stuff out and get it organized. Here I've got some tool trays and hammer racks and all that. So hammers, top tools, bottom tools, measuring and marking tools up here. Some more different tools along the walls here. File rack, and down here I have more files and screwdrivers and tiny jeweler's files and some chisels and things like that. This big opening here is going to get closed in. It'll get another one of those big windows, and my main workbench, I'm going to build a really heavy oak workbench that will sit under this window, and it'll have probably 2 post vices on it. This is just a temporary setup. Works for now, but it's definitely not ideal. My forge here, I just did a bunch of work to it, and if you've seen any of the older videos of me doing projects out of this forge, you'll notice some of the differences. I had the blower mounted on the end here because at one point 2 years ago I was working with another guy, and we were working out of both sides of the forge, and so I wanted the blower where we could both reach it and get a hold of it. But it was really horrible, a really horrible place for the blower for me on this side. And I was using a really narrow and tall barrel for my quench tank, slack tub, whatever you want to call it. I use water a lot, and the tall, narrow bucket or barrel thing, while it works great, it doesn't work as well as a long trough. The long trough is more versatile if you want to isolate a heat in a large piece and you need to pour water over it. It's also better because the water stratifies in temperature and you get a hot layer of water on top, and it's just easier to mix the water, more surface area with a bigger trough. It's really nice. More tongue. I added more tongue racks around there. This whole thing's modern fabricated, obviously, because this is a temporary forge. I'll get to that in a little bit. So anyway, I also moved my fire pot. The fire pot really needs to be close to the face of a side draft hood like this. If anybody's interested in a side draft hood, just look up, Google Lester Beckman Super Sucker forge hood, and you'll see the plans for that. They work great. It'd be working better if I didn't have a breeze coming into the shop. Kind of need doors to block the breeze. But anyway, so I moved my fire pot closer to one end of the forge, which meant that I was able to move the face of the hood back, which gave me a little bit more space, which is really important to me. This forge I built when I was first starting out blacksmithing. Didn't know what I was doing. It's a lot smaller than I really like. And when I get around to building my stone forges, double forge here, they'll be a lot bigger. They'll be 4 feet this way, 3 feet this way to the face of between the quench tank and the face of the chimney. And the tank will be 4 feet long. So right now this is just over 2 feet. I think it's like 28 inches. So I moved the blower from that end over here, and this is so nice. Now I can give my hammer arm a break, crank with my left hand, and tend the fire, move a piece of metal around in the fire, and I don't have to turn loose the blower. So that's really nice. That's a major upgrade. A lot of major upgrades to the forge. It's definitely better than it was. My anvil, center of the anvil, is set 6 feet from the center of the fire, roughly. And that's close enough to not be inconvenient, but it's far enough away that I have plenty of working space around the anvil, if it weren't for the fact that I had another anvil sitting here. This is just temporary. This anvil is here because it has a nice flat surface, but this is my main anvil tied down to this stump. This stump is set 3 feet into the ground, which makes it really, really stable. And this anvil, though it rang like a bell before strapping it down, now it's really, really quiet because of that. So let's see, what else? Yeah, so the stone forge, it's going to have a footprint. I've got a big concrete footer already set here. The stone forge will have a footprint of like 4 by 10 feet. No, it'll be more than that. I think it's 4 by 12. Anyway, somewhere in there. Be a forge on each side, bellows up in the ceiling on each side to supply air to those forges. And so yeah, the next things I'm working on to work toward finishing the shop is I'm going to build the doors. I've got 2 sets of double doors, 1 single door, finish the walls, the siding, put the rest of the windows in. But the doors are next, and I am working on the hardware, and we have, if you haven't seen them, you can see some videos on the YouTube channel and etc. Where I make this door bolt and this latch, and I'm also making a set of strap hinges. All this hardware is wrought iron, and it's for this set of double doors. And I'm going to make the hardware for all of my doors because I want my shop to be kind of a showroom. So when people come to visit, when clients come to visit, I can show off the kind of work that I can do. And so yeah, I appreciate y'all coming along for the tour if you've made it this far. And I'm excited about the improvements, but I'm even more excited about moving on towards my goal of finishing my shop, which would be really nice after 2 years of working out of a very unfinished shop. But it is cool that I've been able to make a living out of such a fairly simple, unrefined, unfinished workspace. Not saying it's been easy, but you can do a lot with a little if you try.